Hi, everybody. Dan Illman, Mike Beer, the DRF race of the day for Saturday, April the 11th. Race number 11 at Oaklawn Park, a full field of three-year-olds going 9 furlongs in the $200,000 Oaklawn Stakes. Remember to try out those new DRF mobile pass performances. You can get true mobile access anywhere, anytime, on your phone. Learn more, drf.com/MPPS. You get the exclusive lifetime buyer speed figure graph. Here's the field for Saturday's race of the day. Remember, download those free formulator pass performances for this race on the race of the day event page at drf.com. Access them, handicap along with us. Mike, it's a big field. You've got a couple of speed horses in here, especially the 13 Gold Street. Boy, his hooves are kind of forced from this post position. He has got to run and gun out of there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they're just going to have to send him and see what happens. He obviously would like it if the track came up wet somehow, because that seems to be what he prefers. But he's got a lot of speed, Dan. He's also got, I think, a lot to prove in a race like this going this distance.
Totally agree. Timeform US takes a look at the pace projector. They believe it's a red bar scenario. They believe it'll be a fast pace. They believe Gold Street will be able to clear to the front with Basin and Thousand Words, two of the main protagonists in this race, not far behind. Let's begin with Basin. He is the one of the Grade 1 stakes winners in this field. And boy, he won the hopeful 2 starts back, going 7 furlongs. I didn't think it was the strongest hopeful in the world, but he looked good. After that race, they wanted to run him in the Breeders' Futurity. He came up with a hind ankle issue. He missed the rest of his 2-year-old campaign. All things considered, I think his Rebel was a useful starting off point. First time 2 turns, off a long layoff, facing one of the best 3-year-olds in the country in Nadal, and catching a wet track to boot.
Yeah, I mean, I can certainly understand looking at him that way. It's probably a race he needed, Dan. I know that he won the hopeful on a wet track, but, you know, catching slop first time off the layoff in a race like that, you know, didn't really have to benefit this horse. And, you know, all in all, I just thought he ran, you know, okay. He didn't have a real strong finish in there, but he was staying on game lead to prevail for third. I suspect he'll do better in this race, Dan. Doesn't mean that I love him. I wouldn't take, you know, too short a price on him, but I suspect he could take a step forward in here.
Are you worried about the distance with him, Mike? This 9 furlongs could be the main determining factor in this race. Basin is a talented horse. He's by Liam's Map, a sire that could go all day long. His half-brother, Rise Up, winner of the Delta Jackpot, more sort of a middle distance type.
Yeah, I think he has, you know, obviously something to prove going this long, and especially if he's going to be a short price, then I think that's something that you really want to consider. Do you want a short price on this horse who you just don't know how far he wants to go?
Another horse coming out of the Rebel is the number 2. Coach Bahe was really taking a step up in class out of the Rebel. He had just won an off-the-turf maiden race at the fairgrounds over muddy going. Now, he was the beneficiary of that fast pace in the Rebel. He came with a wide bid and had a look at it at the quarter pole before flattening out. I think he's improving with each and every start. He gets a little bit of class relief, you could argue, in this spot. I'm just not sure if now's the time for this horse against this strong field. I think maybe there's some potential here down the road.
Yeah, he's certainly a horse to keep an eye on. It's interesting. He's never raced on a fast track yet, so we'll see what happens if he does, in fact, catch a fast track on Saturday. Listen, his Rebel wasn't bad, as you say. He made a wide run in there, just couldn't quite get into contention. And then he was no real threat after that. All in all, considering he was a huge price, he ran fine. He's probably going to have to do better than that in here.
Number 3, Mr. Big News, has valuable experience at the 9 furlong distance, and he just looks like a horse that's going to stay all day long. He comes out of the slower division of the Risen Star, but look, don't let the time of that race fool you. It's become a productive race. The 3rd place finisher coming back to run 2nd in the Louisiana Derby with an 89 buyer. The 8th place finisher running 2nd in the Rebel with a 95. Mr. Big News was steadied a little bit going into the first turn, saved ground every step of the way, finished evenly, galloped out okay. A fast pace would work to his advantage. Perhaps he could sneak into the number at a giant price.
I won't argue with anybody who wants to use him somewhere at a big price. Personally, I don't really love his races. I didn't think he ran that well in the Risen Star, considering the trip he got, which I thought was a good one. And he just didn't really have that strong of a finish. He's not for me.
Thousand Words started his career with 3 wins. The hype machine began. Heck, he was $1 million Keeneland September yearling by Pioneer of the Nile. But we've talked about Thousand Words several times. His wins were more in the gutsy fashion than brilliant, and we wondered what would happen when he faced a horse that was a little bit more naturally talented than he. And I think we found that out in the Grade 2 San Felipe. Authentic and Honor AP just seemed to be in a different league than Thousand Words. I thought he had a good trip saving ground behind the leaders, but he was flat 3/8 of a mile from home. He does get some class relief in here. Baffert is very confident he'll get the 9.
Yeah, I don't think I'd worry about the distance for him either. I mean, you do have to reconcile the San Felipe if you want to take him as the favorite in here, Dan. I guess he will be the favorite. I don't know. You know, he just didn't run well last time, and it's hard to find an excuse for him. The horses that ran 1-2 in there are, you know, they're probably 2 of the better 3-year-olds in the country right now, Dan. He's not facing anyone like that in here. And I did think he ran well in his first 3 starts. I know the margins of victory weren't big, but to me anyway, he was much the best in all of those races. I think he's going to run better. It doesn't mean I want to bet him at a short price, but I think he's going to run better in here.
And just consider Baffert's lifetime record at Oaklawn. He is 26 for 65, 40% winners, a $2.20 return on investment. An up-and-comer is the number 5, Sir Rick. This horse has won 3 out of his last 4 races, including the Mind That Bird Derby at Sunland Park last time out. We'll take a look at that race. He broke really well. He rated on the outside, and as they turn into the stretch, he has already taken over the lead, and he draws off. Now, he is not facing much in the Mind That Bird Derby. This is a big step up in class. He's a horse with a versatile running style. The 9 furlongs against this competition might be a bridge a bit too far.
It's a really tough spot for him. I gotta admit, Dan, I'm a fan of this horse. I really like his races. I know he didn't beat much in that race we just watched. He won very easily. 2 starts back, he just got loose on the lead and he crushed that field. Even his allowance win back at Delta Downs in October, going 5 furlongs. That's a replay you should go take a look at. He really ran that day. Listen, I just like this horse. It's a tough spot for him. He's going to be a big price, and I'm going to try and get him in there somewhere.
Steve Asmussen sends out the 6, Shoplifted, who has not improved much from a Beyer speed figure standpoint since his winning career debut at Saratoga over the summer. This is a horse that's run some decent races. I'm not sure how good he is, or I'm not sure how subpar he is. It seems like he has excuses every time he loses. And when he wins races like the Springboard Mile, I thought he took advantage of being on the best part of the track. The Southwest, to me, might be the race where I kind of jump off him. I didn't think he had much of an excuse in that race. He finished behind Wells Bayou, who came back to win the Louisiana Derby with a 91 Beyer. I think he needs to improve just a little bit.
I think he's got to improve too. I thought, you know, if you wanted to, you know, if he's going to be a big price in here and you wanted to give him one more chance, I would just say that the Southwest, while he was no real factor in there, that was not a race where you wanted to be closing. I mean, this horse was well off the pace for most of the way, and there just weren't any closers in that race. And I thought he had at least a little bit of an excuse. I guess my problem with him is, other than that, I just don't love his races.
I think a sleeper in here at 20-1 is the 7, Flapjack. This horse returned off of a lengthy layoff in the Grade 3 Gotham, moving to dirt, and I didn't really think that trip had to work out for him. I think he was 4 wide in between horses on the backstretch. He loomed boldly 3 wide turning into the stretch. He had a big look at it, and I think he felt the effects of the layoff. The last 3/16 of a mile. Second off the bench now. I think he's going to be tighter. He's got a bullet 5 furlong workout at Keeneland staring you at the face. He should get the right pace set up. I'm a little bit concerned about the 9, but this horse has, again, sleeper written all over him.
Yeah, he does. I'm going to use this horse. I was a little interested in him in the Gotham last time, and I, like you, thought he ran well in there in a race he probably needed. I liked all 3 of his races as a 2-year-old, and I do think he has a lot of upside. I'm not as concerned about the distance as I am about potentially the trip he gets, Dan. He does seem like a horse who wants to be forward. If the pace is fast, he may not love that, but I think this horse has some potential. I'm going to use him.
I think you and I might disagree a little bit about the merits of the number 8, Tyshawn. This is a horse that's tried stakes competition twice and was beaten double digits both times, perhaps exposing him as a notch below stakes level. If you want to give him some excuses, the sham, though, was in against Authentic, who probably is one of the top 2 or 3 3-year-olds in the country. And in the Southwest, I just thought he had a lousy trip, shuffled out of there going into the first turn very wide afterwards. He came back with a nice win. We're going to watch it right now over a sloppy track. He had a great trip. He controlled the pace from start to finish, but I like the way he finished the race off with a 92 Beyer speed figure. His running style and the distance is a question mark, but I'm not ready to give up on him just yet against stakes horses.
I'm not willing to give up on him yet either, Dan. Obviously, he's got something to prove. I totally agree with your take on his two graded stake starts. He wasn't beating Authentic in the Sham. He was just a terrible wide trip in the Southwest. I think you want to give him a pass for that. I mean, listen, he looked good winning last time. He got absolutely loose on the lead in there. Nobody challenged him, and he just had plenty left when Rosario finally asked him the question. I thought visually it was really nice. Can he do it against the tougher field when he can't make the lead? I guess that's the real question for him. It all comes down to price for me, Dan. I wouldn't take a short one on him. If he's a big one, I'm not going to argue with him.
I'm a big fan of the number 9 Digital. I'm very concerned about the 9 for a long distance. And I think if you watch his last 2 races, you'd be concerned as well. 2 starts back going a mile and a 16th. He sat a great trip. He went to the lead. He had the race in the bag at the 16th pole, and he let Blackberry Wine come back and beat him. I thought it was a pretty bad loss. In the Risen Star last time out, he was traveling sweetly on the turn in behind the leaders. He had a 3-wide bid at the quarter pole. It looked like he was going to make a run, and he just flattened out. Maybe the company of those 2 races, Blackberry Wine has turned out to be a useful 3-year-old. The Risen Star might be a nice race. Mr. Monomoy, before he got hurt, looked like a useful horse. The distance worries me. I think this horse has the right running style for this race, however, and I think there is some natural ability here.
I think there's a natural ability too, and I think he can get a good trip in here. I mean, he's gotten basically really good trips in all 4 of his starts so far. Like you, I'm very concerned about the distance. I do not like his 2 route races that much. Not that he ran poorly in them, but I didn't see the excuses for him in those races.
Something Natural, the number 10, returns to the scene of his most recent victory, an optional claiming race at Oaklawn on February the 15th. Brad Cox tried him in the rushaway on synthetic last time out. I thought all in all he had a good trip. They ran 1-2 around the track. There wasn't much closing going on, but he edged into second, and he was pipped for the place at the wire. He needs a Beyer boost, but listen, toss out Brad Cox at a price at your own peril.
Yeah, true enough. I mean, he's obviously going to have to do better to beat this field, and it's not like he drew some kind of great post in here. But I think it's worth pointing out he's 2 for 2 on fast dirt. I mean, he really hasn't had a chance other than those 2 starts to run over a fast track, and he's looked good winning both of those races. And I just felt like there were some excuses to be had maybe in some of his other races too. I don't love him, Dan. I don't have him anywhere in my mix, but I'm not going to be surprised if he takes a step forward.
Background is the number 11, and this is another horse, I think, with hidden qualities at a nice price. I really like the way he won his 2-turn debut at Oaklawn. He sat off of the pace. He really finished it once the button was pushed. Last time out, he was beaten by Tyshawn, but he hopped right up at the start of that race, had to come really wide into the stretch, and he punched on at the end. He is all upside at this point. My one concern is that this might be a little bit too much too soon in his 4th lifetime start, but he's going to be a good price, and there's something here with this horse.
Yeah, I agree with all that stuff. It may be too tough for him right now, although I will admit, there are some nice horses in here, Dan, but he didn't catch any of the leading lights of this division right now. He caught some good horses. I don't think he caught any stars. He's looked good in all 3 of his starts. His debut was a really good effort with a bad trip. As you say, when he broke his maiden on the stretch out, he just dominated that field. And, I don't know what the chart caller was thinking for his last one, saying that he hung. That is a very uncharitable comment. He had big excuses in there the way that race was run. I actually thought he ran well.
Number 12 is Farmington Road, 6-1 on the morning line for Todd Pletcher, 6 for 14 at Oaklawn over the last 2 years is the Pletcher barn with a positive return on investment. This colt made his first start against winners in the master division of the Grade 2 Risen Star, and although he had a lousy post position that day, I don't think he lost too much ground going into the first turn and on the back stretch. He was pretty far behind. He came with a real wide run into the stretch, and he was moving at the end. Blinkers on, not a good post position here. I think Martin Garcia drops back, hopes the time Form U.S. pace projector is correct. A fast pace materializes, and he comes with a run. I could certainly see this horse in the mix.
Yeah, me too. He was one of the horses, of all the horses, especially, Dan, that are sort of shorter prices. This is one that I definitely want to use. Post 12 is, no bargain for him. But I like all of his races. I think he's getting better. Every time he steps out on the track for Pletcher, he's one of the horses in here who I don't think you have to worry about distance at all. If he gets a trip and a fast pace, I think he's going to be heard from at the end of this race.
Gold Street, the expected pace setter from the far outside. Perfect on wet tracks, yet to win on fast going. He won the Smarty Jones 2 starts back just with an easy trip. He got to the lead. He went as slow as could be, and he sprinted on home. That situation not available to him over fast going in the Southwest. He wasn't as quick out of there as Wells Bayou. He raced in and among horses, but once he got clear on the far turn and dropped down inside, there was no kick. He's going to have to work very hard from this outside post.
Yeah, he was bad last time. He was denied the early lead in a little bit of traffic. But as you say, he was on empty a long way out in there, did not run well. He's just not my kind of horse, Dan. Stretching out again, a very tough post. They're just going to have to send him. I'm just not buying into this horse in races like this.
Wide open race, the $200,000 Oaklawn Stakes. We take a look at our top selections in here. We're both going with a little bit of a price. The 11 background is 12-1 on the morning line, Mike. He's got all the upside. He should get the right setup.
Yeah, we'll see if he classes up at this point. Maybe he needs a few more races, Dan, but I just like all of his starts. I thought he has run really well, especially in his last two. And he was badly compromised last time. I got all prices in there, Dan. I didn't go with any of the favorites. I just want to try to get one of these outsiders in there at a big price.
Mike's going 11, 7, 5, 12. I'm going to take a chance with the 9 Digital. I'm very concerned about the distance. I think he classes up very well with these horses. However, I think another good trip is coming from just off of the pace. He's 8-1 on the morning line. I want to use all 4 of my picks in any kind of multis. I went 9, 8, 12, 4. Again, Mike goes 11, 7, 5, 12. It's the Saturday race of the day, and it is a good one. The Oaklawn Stakes has an approximate post time of 5:48 Central. Best of luck.